All right. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you very much for joining today. Very excited to go over our topic for the week. So welcome to today's Stand-Up Stand-Up. My name is Jerry Black. I'm your host. I'm joined today by Tim Stevens. We may have a couple of others joining us a little bit later, but as of right now, this is the crew. So let's go ahead and get started. This week, the topic is imposter syndrome. And we're going to go over a little bit of the definition for imposter syndrome as kind of the general title is essentially imposter syndrome is a feeling that you are a fraud, and it is not just I'm not really good at that thing, or I can't really do that. That's just kind of what we all deal with on a daily basis. But imposter syndrome is the next level of that, where you are feeling like people are going to find you out, that any success that you have is not yours. It's because of luck. Any failures you have is your fault, but any success or anything else is not. And it can kind of manifest in a lot of ways. There's sort of a level of perfectionism that if it weren't perfect, then you failed. And then there's this level of you're not the smartest person. You're not smart enough. You're not any of those things. And so it really kind of manifests differently in different people, but it's sort of that overall, I don't feel like I belong here because I'm not good enough. For the rest of the week, tomorrow we're going to talk imposter syndrome for the whole week, but tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit about how we see it in ourselves. And then on Wednesday, we'll talk about how it ends up being as a leader, and when you see it in your team, and how to maybe address that, or at least how I've seen it in teams, how anybody else has seen it in their team, where they've seen it manifest, and what we can maybe do about it. Then day 4, or Thursday, actually a little bit of what are the benefits, because there are actually a few, and we can talk through how you can almost turn some of that imposter syndrome on its head and leverage it, and be referencing some other people's work there. There's a lot of people that have done some pretty deep dives into this stuff. So, and then day 5, we're going to sum it up. As always, every day when we get kind of done with the conversation, then we'll dig into, or then we'll have some jokes generally about imposter syndrome, but they don't have to be, just in general, try and get you off on a nice start for your day. So with that said, some of the symptoms, and I'm going to list a couple, and then Tim, if there are any that you've run into personally or anything along those lines, feel free to share. A general feeling of unease and that extended feeling of being a fraud are the ones that, for me, when I've really felt it, it's been those times where I just don't feel like I belong, or I feel like literally there's a voice inside my head that's like, don't do this. You can't do this, or it's just not going to work. You have to stop, kind of thing. A lot of the time it actually manifests for me in comedy and in writing jokes when I know I have a performance coming up, because it's like, oh, none of those are funny. You're not a funny person. You just need to kind of hang it up, turn it over to other people. You're too old, you're too this, you're too that, sort of thing. So anyways, that's kind of how it's come across for me, at least recently, or in the past, kind of year. How about you?
I always catch myself talking about time as if my time in this position I'm in today, which is management, and my time as a network engineer, that I need more time to really see myself as a network manager or network engineer. Especially when you're surrounded by people, because I think comparably speaking, I'm probably on the younger side. When I look at my peers who are also in management or were in engineering, and I even look at my team, and I don't know. I don't know if this is the case, but I think I also sit at the lower side of the age scale. So part of, again, my struggles, kind of my thoughts, and I let my thoughts, really take off, and I have to catch myself and reel myself back in, is that I need more time to really consider or allow others to consider me a manager. But the reality is what's comforting is I've crossed paths with other managers that have been doing it for decades. And I see some of the things in them that I almost think, how is that even possible? You're still doing that, or you're not doing this, whatever it may be.
Sure.
Time for sure.
Interesting. And then from an IT perspective, I really see it where I've seen it, and this is not so much in myself, although I do it. In IT, I see it really around that we feel like a lot of the time we have to be the smartest person in the room, and not because, oh, I am the smartest person in the room. Sometimes it feels like we put that on ourselves, like they are expecting me to be the smartest person in the room. They are expecting me to know everything about IT. And the higher up the people are in the meeting, the more I have that sense, I've got to say something. And then I over talk, or I step in where it doesn't really make any sense for me to step in. And I really have found that if I try and hold myself back and just listen, that the points where I can actually add value become pretty clear, and I can add value. But it's a battle for me to not over communicate, over talk about my, oh, well, this, or you could do that, or well, think about this, or think about that, and I can just see people's eyes glass over, and I think, oh my God, I got to stop. And then when that happens, I can't stop. It's this weird self-perpetuating. Now I need to talk more and talk more, because now they've glassed over. So now I have to convince them, and I have to get them back, and I have to. And it just is. That's how I've seen it in me, and I can see it in other people in meetings. Not really with other IT professionals, although that does happen. It tends to be when you're not with IT professionals, and you talk over, feel like you need to talk over everybody and show that you are smart or you're providing value. And so that, anyways, that's where I've seen it in IT in particular.
Yeah. Something just hit me last week. I was in a call with two architects, seasoned architects, very sharp, very articulate. And we ended up discussing Azure and network's role in building out the path to and from Azure for our organization. And I know fundamentally how it works, but I can't hold a candle to these guys when it comes to the inner workings of Azure. And I'll step back. What's so refreshing is when being in the presence of someone has a very high quality skill set that they've cultivated over the years. And you hear the words, I don't know anything about that, or I'm not familiar with that technology. So refreshing, right? But on the flip side, and guys, this is really for all of you, part of going into IT and really opening yourself up and finding your persona on the stage is being authentic. And that's really something I keep hearing recently, even through our leadership at our company, is being authenticity. It's refreshing hearing someone in IT say, I don't know what that is, or I've never heard of that before. And you see them very differently. You have this respect. But when I say it out loud, which I did in this call, I was proud that I did, but then I started questioning, well, maybe I should know more. Sure. Shouldn't I know more about Azure as a manager? And then, just this, like you said, use the word perpetual, just kept going and going. And then eventually I reeled it in, which you have to, guys, you have to reel it in. You've got to manage your emotions and realize you're not going to know everything in IT, but that authenticity, which you'll have to embrace if you want to go on the stage and do well, also carries over to the IT side. And I'm telling you right now, especially if you're in a leadership position, to hear someone who says they don't know versus they try to BS their way through it is such a scale, the other opposite sides of the scale. and you will be looked upon over time as someone of quality and integrity. Now, I'm not saying throw that around all the time. I don't know. That's not what I'm saying. Because if that's the case, then you need to crack open some books and look at some doctrine online, right? You really do. Because as a leader, regardless of where you're at, you should know the fundamentals and the basics of pretty much every technology that your company hosts. You should. At the minimum, you need to know how to spell Azure, right? Which I do, by the way. So don't think that I don't. But I wanted to share that with you. That really hit me good last week. Yeah.
And I think, like you said, like when it comes to sort of the comedy side of this, right? The that being authentic. You could have Jerry Seinfeld write jokes for you, right? And it would not come across when you said it as funny as when he says it. And it certainly wouldn't feel, I think the audience would be like, well, are you just trying to do, somebody else's jokes? We could just read other people's jokes.
Right.
It just doesn't come across as you. And when you're on stage, the flip side of it is when you're on stage, it's almost like you're going to be judged on how much of you show us, as opposed to, obviously how funny were your jokes, but also how much of that was you, or at least the you that you wanted to bring to stage. How good are you at bringing that to stage?
Yeah.
And
how brave are you?
Yeah,
how
when you first start, when you're first getting on stage, the first time, and anybody that ever joins us and it's their first time on stage, the dudes that do well, it's sometimes it's frustrating because, hey, man, I wrote all these jokes and I did all this stuff. And then you see somebody get up on stage and they may not have the best set in the world, but they kill it because they were just themselves. And you're like,
connect.
How do I get that back? That's so awesome.
Right. Yeah.
So anyways,
Well,
I think
real quick, in this comedy training course that I'm in now through Stir Crazy, we have a female in the class, super nervous. And every week, all of us go up on the stage one at a time, and we go through our set that we're going to present during the showcase. That's part of the day. She gets up on the stage and she doesn't have much of anything yet. And she starts out, first thing out of her mouth is, I'm nervous. And we're all like, it's okay. That's why we're here. There would be something wrong with you if you weren't. We're all nervous. But the more time you're on the stage, the more time you get on the stage, the more confident you get. So she struggled a little bit. And then finally, she said, I'm so nervous, I want to lick a Xanax. And we all cracked up and we all reinforced and gave her that affirmation. Like, that's perfect. Be you. Be nervous. Yeah. Tell the crowd you're nervous. And then throw that in. That was beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So that's it. As far as stand-up goes, we do try and keep these relatively short. So I think we did a good job covering here today. Thank you for sharing everything. Do you have anything that you'd like to share today from the joke side of the world?
I do.
All right. You have a minute. The time is yours.
I have two for you today. The first one I found online. The second one I came up with myself. Pretty proud of it. The first one is, are you even good enough to have imposter syndrome? And the second one, IT, where half the people suffer from imposter syndrome and the other half have no idea what they're doing. That's interesting.
That's good. Yeah.
Yes.
Half the people suffer and the other half
have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, have no idea what they're doing, don't realize that they should have imposter syndrome or are really imposters or
yeah.
I
think just to add, and then I'll stop with my minute, is if you're the second half, that's the worst. And I'll tell you why. Because eventually you're going to wake up and realize, I don't know. And I know we're going to cover this on Thursday, but if you don't have a degree of it, you're likely not pushing yourself to get better.
Yeah.
So if you think that you know everything, you're the most dangerous person in the room.
Yeah.
To yourself.
I think that's a great point. I'm excited to talk about that a little bit of the
Yeah.
hey, if you don't have some of it, you're not pushing. Because you really, we'll get into it because we would sit here and use another 10, 15 minutes just to go over that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right. What about you? Got any zingers today?
So I'm going with the I have imposter syndrome. You know, I hear it. For me, it manifests in my head as my PE coach from the 7th grade. You know, he was like, "You're worthless. You're never going to amount to anything. Don't put your shirt back on yet." You know, those sorts of things. That's what I hear in my head, and that's just on. I hear that on my commute. I hear for the whole commute, and I work from home, so you know that's really how that sort of shows up. I like wake up out of bed, and it's like, get down and give me 20 right now, you worthless piece of crap.
Yeah. You
can't even get it up in the morning. Wait, no, that might actually been my wife. Now that I think about that. But anyway,
I love it.
Yeah. All right. All right. Well, thank you very much, Tim. As always, exciting, and we will talk again tomorrow with everyone.
Absolutely. Signing out. Thanks, guys.
All right.